Well, now this will get stuck in your head.
I don't think so. I haven't looked to make sure all of our stuff was still
Connected?
in here. Well, it definitely wasn't all connected.
It's been a while. It's been a while. I have missed the podcast.
I kind of forgot how to do some of this stuff. Oh yeah, I forgot to update that. Oh yeah, I forgot to change that.
I'm just hyped. I'm just hyped today. Today is Hype Tuesday, man. I'm ready to listen to some good jams, get some good studying done. I've got a chapter in my book to read. We're doing managing leadership anxiety as a ministerial group. So I gotta read that. We're meeting tomorrow. Talk about chapter 2. It's been really good for us to kind of do that as a group. I'm pumped for. I guess I should save all this for our intro, but we got a lot going on with our youth group, and some good things coming up. Got a lot of stuff. Got a lot of irons in the fire at the moment, man. A lot of irons in the fire. So
That's not a bad thing.
Well, I just felt like I finally was like slowing down, and then before I feel like I don't ever slow down. Like people are like, "Oh yes, school's over, you slowing down," and I'm like, "No, man, never slow down. When you stop moving, that's when you die."
Well, man, just man, today is the first day I've been able to really have any sense of routine.
Oh, right.
In probably 3 months. It's just been one thing after another. We had friends come into town. I don't know if you guys know Aaron and Lauren and their son Sam.
I hate them.
You know, they were here for a week, and then
the worst people.
With
they just eat your food and leave.
Oh, man. We did a lot of cooking, though. That's good.
It was good. Actually, I think Lauren and I, we commented on that. We're like, man, it was kind of nice. Like, we just had, like, real chill meals. Nothing too fancy, nothing too hard. I wish I would have found that, those tacos before we left. Cook them on your, flat stove outside.
Those look good, man. Like anything that uses like a real dried pepper in the marinade that's blended up, can't go wrong with that. So,
have you checked our Facebook page? Some of our all of our videos have your video is muted in certain countries where Meta does not have the rights to the music.
That's funny.
That is funny.
I haven't. I have to go back and look and see like what music it would be.
Right.
There's 33 no popular
seconds.
Music.
33 seconds of audio they own.
Maybe it's muted in Australia.
I wonder if it's the
intro.
No, that wasn't muted.
Were you singing on one of them? Is your singing not copyrighted?
I don't know.
I'll go look and see. I'll have a little time this week.
Have to go back and watch our own podcast.
I listen to them.
You're a better man than me. I cannot stand the sound of my own voice.
I've learned to just be okay with it because I'm not changing it. So if everybody else has to listen to it, I may as well have to as well.
Till we're all growing a beard. A man's face should never be bare. We just want some facial hair. We're anticipating, yeah, everyone's waiting for a beard.
Well, hey, good morning, everybody. This is Behind the Beards. And here on Behind the Beards, we pull the curtain back, take a look behind the scenes, and reveal the things that go on in the hearts and minds of your church and ministry leaders. Hey, this season, we are looking for new ways to prepare ourselves and our people for the Christian life. I'm Joshua Fowler, a preaching minister in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And my brother here on the other side of the screen, Aaron Partlow, a youth minister in Longview, Texas.
Whoop whoop! East Texas!
Oh,
for life.
Man. 3 months. It's been 3 months since we were here.
That's unreal. It's unreal. I felt like we were going to take a month off, and then it just turned into 2 months, and then it just turned into 3 months, and I was like, man, we gotta get the defibrillator onto this podcast, man, and zap her back into life. Like, we gotta get back to it. So, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad our listeners are here. Sad my dad isn't here. Hello. Calling you out, man. I'm just kidding. I didn't even text him that we were going live. So he'll probably get a notification on his phone and be like, oh, I didn't know.
Oh. Well, man, it's been, like you said, we were going to take like the month of August off because you were busy. And then I got called to go do 2 weeks of church camp in June.
That's right.
And I was like, I literally have zero service. I can't do anything from there. We have no Wi-Fi at our church camp as well. So, and then, July was crazy, and then we had family coming in on August. So
you literally had people at your house every week of August.
Every week
you were a church camp. Yeah. You fed, and you worshipped with, and you housed people.
It's true. We were church camp,
and you didn't win a single game.
Well, that's not true.
Did you? What game did you win?
Are you talking about just like 1 week, or
no? Just the whole week. No, not. This is not. I'm not being like competitive or a jerk or anything.
Oh.
I'm just asking. Like, did you win? I should have asked it more in a question. Did you win any games?
Oh yeah,
the rest of the time.
I won Clue. I always win Clue.
Ooh.
We won Catan.
Did you win a game of Catan? Nice.
Yes. I think you are like the first person that's come into my house and beat me in my own house at Catan.
That's good because you were the person who taught me Catan, and you taught me the ways of losing. I remember in Kansas.
Yeah.
Driving home for an hour, thinking about how can I beat Josh at this game next time I play him.
Oh. No, but it was really good. Yeah, we had a lot of family. One of the coolest things we had was getting to see my son again, man. It'd been January 1st of 2019 was the last time we had seen him. And they were finally able to get home.
That's a long time.
It is a long time. But we got to meet his wife in person, not through a phone screen. And got to meet the grandbaby.
That's
Sophia,
right.
Man.
Not only meet, but hold. Physical touch is such a big thing, right?
Yeah. It's so crazy. There's some things that you really don't kind of think about. And it's a hard adjustment to make, right? Because you feel like this closeness and this desire, and then they come in and we had this conversation. It was like, man, like, I just want to hold her all the time. But, Daisy was a little bit hesitant to leave her. And I said, well, think about it. Usually by the time you get to this stage of life, there's been a dating process, and you meet the family during the dating process, and there's an engagement period. And then after they're married, you have time and holidays to spend together. And so there's just this knowledge of one another, and you're comfortable with one another. But we're in this place where, once again, in Dustin's life, he skipped some steps. And we've gone like straight
That
into
sounds
this
like him.
world of, hey, we're married and then we have a baby, and now we're meeting everybody for the first time, and it's just, there's some challenges there that we didn't really anticipate, but
Right?
it was really cool to walk through. It was really neat to see her open up and get to know us, and us be able to get to know her a little better. And it's just a really, really good time. We got to spend with them. And my mom and dad came. Heather's mom and her dad came. We had family come in from kind of all over the area to see them. We kind of just said, look, we're not going anywhere. Dustin and Daisy and the baby are going to be here. If you want to come see, come see. But we're not coming to you.
We ain't coming to you. You come to us.
But man, such a good time, and those 2 weeks went by really fast. But they're home, back home and safe. My daughter is in Vienna, Austria. She's studying abroad.
Wow.
They landed on a Wednesday. I guess they landed on a Thursday morning, and then on Friday she went to an Ed Sheeran concert in Vienna, and absolutely had the time of her life. So
I'm having the time of my life.
and then my youngest,
bet
that's a
I've-
Oklahoma Christian. So
Been checking out her B reels.
yeah,
It's fun to see. Yeah, her traveling. It was fun to be able to hang out and see her while she was here. I wish I could have seen the rest of your family too. I love your kids. Your kids are a joy to be around. I will say that.
so that's that's my, I say that's my summer. That really does encapsulate my summer, but it was the last month and a half or so, and then everything else kind of was just leading up to that.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff. What's going on? What's new with what's new in the Partlow household?
Well, we had a really good summer. It was a lot of fun. We took our kids, we took our youth group up to Soul Quest in Nebraska, and we described that as like big and powerful. And it's a really great challenging week. My favorite part of Soul Quest this year, which people are gonna judge me for, and that's okay, was that there was this hailstorm that hit, and it was the first time I had seen like golf ball size hail. In Oregon, like we always hear of these places getting golf ball size hail. But it does damage. And the best part about Soul Quest for us was that we didn't drive our buses. So I was like the only youth minister who was like sipping on coffee, chillaxing that morning, while everyone else was calling insurance and everything because they had to get their van checked out or their windshields were cracked or calling elders to get it all sorted out. And I'm like, yeah, we chartered a bus, so I got nothing up here that's under my responsibility that it got damaged. I checked on my kids. They were fine. So it was chill. Then we get back. 2 days after we get back from Soul Quest, I take half of that group and we go right out to the Northeast Texas Summer Youth Series, Netsis Camp. And I was really hesitant when I first got there because it's a new camp. I've never done church camp with this group before. I didn't really have a role, so I felt kind of out of place. Like there was some stuff that I was in charge of, but like I didn't know what I was doing. I felt like Will Ferrell in Talladega Nights. I was like, they're like, what's wrong? I was like, I don't know what to do with my hands, and they're like, just put them down. I'm like, what do I do at church camp? And they're like, just be with your kids and enjoy it. And I'm like, walking around. But after a day of that, I settled in and kind of went with the flow, and it turned out to be like just super awesome camp. I'm really looking forward to going back next year. I kind of have an idea of what I can really bring to the table and find my own nook and cranny there. I was in charge of games, and if you guys have listened to the podcast, you know that I like games. And so I brought 2 new games that were my creation and kind of morphed them and kind of changed them to kind of fit Netsis camp, and they went over really well. I say one was like an 8 out of 10 and the other one was like a 5 out of 10, and honestly guys, like I feel like a 5 out of 10 is okay for the first time, and it was fun. And it'll come back into rotation I think later on, but it won't be one we play next year. So anyway, we did that and that was fun. I got back and then our pulpit minister, our preacher Jody, who we're gonna hopefully have on next week. went on sabbatical. And so both him and our Hispanic minister went on sabbatical at the same time for an entire month. And so that left me and the new children's minister as like the ministry staff. And so I led singing and I preached and all sorts of stuff. And so that was like crazy. We did some local missions stuff here in Longview. We did some Netsis Days. We hosted a youth rally at our church. I mean, it was just like a bunch of stuff, little things that kept happening, and then we do a whole bunch of stuff just like in the youth room. Then we did like a Sunday night devo every single night at somebody's house, and that was a blast. And then August came, and we were able to take a breath, slow down. And now I'm ramping back up. This crazy phenomena has been happening. We went to this awesome Netsis Day at Shiloh Road. And it was called, I can't remember what it was called, but it was like Your Turn or Step Up or something like that. And the entire day was based around like their teenagers stepping up and doing devotional thoughts and reading scripture and leading singing and all sorts of stuff. As much as they wanted to. Like, they led that youth rally. And it was passionate, and it was powerful, and was it as crisp and as clean as like if like we did it or the adults did it? No, not at all. But it was like there was this raw truth that was coming out, and this passion from these teenagers. Well, it like hit a spark in my teens. For the last 4 Wednesday nights, my teenagers have been leading our Wednesday night devotional session. Like volunteered. They've just volunteered and they've been doing it. And then all the way till right now, till the end of October, they are booked out every Wednesday night leading devotionals. So right now I'm working with teens individually to kind of do their devotionals, do their devos. And it's just been really powerful on our Wednesday nights. And so that's been going for us. So I'm really excited about that, and that's been super great for us. So I don't know if I'm lagging or if Josh is lagging, but I'm gonna text him to see. I think it was him. Maybe he's joining back. I'm texting him. There you are. All right. So I was talking about how my kids are leading devotionals.
Yeah, I could hear you.
Okay, good, cool.
Yeah.
So that's been like super powerful and super awesome for us. And then I met with a group of parents to kind of to step up and to be like really a part of our youth ministry instead of just parents, but like come attend events, come walk into Bible class and make sure that they're connecting with our teenagers to really lead them up like a spiritual mountain. And that's new for me. Like to hand stuff off to these people and to say, hey, I expect and I want you guys to come up with ideas to and run with these and be a part of the youth group. And so that's cool. And that's exciting and terrifying for me, but also like a healthier version of youth ministry. So sure. We're new through that, and I need to not let that fire burn out, as you know, because I could do the meet with them once and then never do anything with it. And that's how a lot of ministry things die off, is that we don't keep up with them.
Yeah, follow through.
So I want to follow through. So anyway, that's what's on my table. Other than that, like we signed up to host Netsis Fall Days, and I'm trying to think of like a theme or an idea. And I've kind of thought about like I'm trying to like do something quirky with the title, like keep it simple, like pumpkin spice or something, something fall themed. But also like I really want to hit that, like I want to hit that point like about keeping it simple, keeping our faith simple. Like it's simple. Build a relationship with God by studying his word.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to hit home. That's kind of the theme. So I'm trying to think of like a cutesy way to be able to do that, and then
well, it's funny how
do something with that.
Like things you say and do will come back to, I don't want to say like bite you in the rear, because it's usually a good thing, but you went to camp and you sent me a message and you're like, dude, I don't know how to do this.
Right. Yeah.
And I told you, I remember what I told you. I said, look, God's got you there in this place for a reason. Somebody there needs to hear what you have to say. So just say what you have to say and be present and trust that God's going to use whatever role you have at that camp this year exactly as he needs it to work. And then I went to camp. And I was at camp as a Bible teacher for 2 weeks. And I'm like, this is not my camp.
That's right.
This is not the way we do camp. And I'm like, I'm not a director. I'm not a counselor. I'm just a Bible teacher. And we only had one Bible class a day. I was like, I don't even feel like this is Bible camp. And so I had to go back and read all those messages I sent to you and say, okay.
Because you didn't have service. You couldn't text me. You just had to lean upon your own wisdom.
So I was like, all right, this is the conversation we had, and it's the words that I need to hear. And as I went through the week, I realized this is not my camp. And the kids that were there are not the kind of kids that I'm accustomed to seeing at church camp. Because, when we were doing camp together, we had our group, your group, other church groups that were coming in, and all of these kids had a really solid foundation of Bible. They were church kids coming to camp. The kids at the camp down here, I'm going to say probably 30% of them are churched. But I'm betting half to 2/3 just come from communities around because they're there for the summer. It's a $200 sleepaway camp where you get physical activity, good moral teaching, they feed you, and everybody's safe. And so it's kind of like cheap daycare for kids in the summertime. And this is elementary through middle school. And I remember one of my counselors going, hey, I know you said this is going to be really basic, but I need you to go even more fundamental. I was like, how fundamental? And she said, well, you mentioned in your lesson that Christ went to the cross for us. And in our cabin devo that night, one of the kids said, what did he mean by Christ went to the cross?
Right.
I was like, oh
boy.
Like fundamental, like we're going basic. So it was a really good experience to just kind of step back and see the big view of how these spaces can work in different ways that I had never even really thought or imagined before. And it was really good. Met some good people, and started some good relationships with some families as they came to, like, after their kids would come home, they would kind of come to the church and say, hey, you were the teacher at my kids' Bible camp this summer, and they came back and they couldn't stop talking about this or this or this. So I just wanted to come see kind of what you guys do. And just, man, when sometimes all you got to do is get out of the way. Like, do what God did, put you there to do, and just get out of the way and let the Spirit go to work.
Right.
That may be one of the best things that I learned through all the things this summer was just, hey, sometimes you just need to get out of the way and let God work.
That's totally true.
Get your own anticipation, get your own mindset, get your own expectations. Just do the job God's called you to do. Do it to the best of your ability, and then be available to what He's going to do. Not an easy lesson to learn, I'll tell you. Not an easy lesson to learn, but a really good time. You look intensely focused.
I'm not.
You're not.
I am. I'm focused on. I was looking at our questions.
Oh, I
have here because I wanted to make sure I was following along.
Did you learn anything about yourself, about your people, about your kids this summer? I think that's the key, to growth, right? Is with every activity, looking back and go, what am I supposed to learn from where I've been? So,
and I learned that, I honestly, I don't. This is weird. I haven't actually talked about this. I don't know why God uses me. I don't know why God uses me. I know myself, and I know my strengths, my weaknesses. I know my faults. I know, and I just I don't understand. I don't understand why God uses me. I don't understand why people. I've heard my Bible classes, and I think they're okay. I don't think they're phenomenal or great or anything. But I just had an elder called me the other day, and he said, "I just want you to know that we have this new family. who hasn't been to church for 6 months, and they came back, and I guess they overheard your Bible class or sermon or something, and they went, "This is somebody that I want my kid like to hear from, like his, like he's teaching God's word." And like, guys, like this is why I don't understand why God uses me, because he said the teen's name, and I went, "Who?" Like, what? What? I'm like, hold on. Let me look up in our church database. Oh, there's a picture from like 8 years ago. Yeah, I have no idea who this teen is. You know? And I'm like, and like, yeah, I just admitted on a podcast that I don't know every teen in my youth group who shows up. I try to get names, but you have like 50 kids there. It's hard to like remember everybody and the new people who kind of walk in. And for me, like, it's hard to know if they're friends coming through, or if they are with some family that like visits, or families that just like visit and then they leave. So it's weird sometimes, but so I learned that like it's amazing what God does, and I'm grateful to be used by Him. I'm grateful that the efforts that I put in are there, but I don't know why God uses me.
Well,
I don't.
So often we ask that question, why
Right.
me when things are going bad, right? I mean,
Yeah.
when the world's falling down, you're looking up, you're going like, why me? Like, why is this happening to me? But I do that with some regularity as well. I mean, like, why in the world does he think I'm the one equipped to do this task in front of me? Like,
Yeah, totally agree.
and I guess it goes back to some of those sayings, right? There's one in there. I mean, they're kind of colloquialisms and they're a little cliche, but so often they're true. It's like God doesn't call the equipped; He equips
Yeah.
the called, right?
That's
So,
that's the truth.
I'm going to call you to this, and if you'll accept the call, I'm going to give you everything you need to do what I need to do. And it's such a humbling place to be. Mm-hmm. I mean, it really is, to kind of look and go, man. I got no idea what I'm going to do with what's in front of me, but here I am, and it's there, and the time is up. So let's get to rolling.
That's right.
The
I also learned that I don't want to be a full-time preacher. So I know. Every time I say that, somebody's like, "Well, you shouldn't say never," but I'm just saying, like, I'm not saying that I never will be. I'm just saying,
No.
like,
That's not what I was going to say. I was going to
Okay.
say, be careful what you put out in the God sphere,
that's true. That's true.
because every time I've said I do not want this, that's kind of been the thing that's come down the pipe.
That's
next.
true. That's true.
Because God has a way of chuckling and say, "Oh, really? Well, let me show you."
Let me say it this way. I've learned that I still really enjoy youth ministry, and even after a hard summer of being busy and doing youth ministry, like I'm still ready to tackle and be a youth minister.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
For a long period of time. Like 34, you start to feel things, physically and emotionally, and like you just get tired. Like, you get tired of the like having to do something every single night or every single week, being out there and physically doing something with these kids. But I still enjoy youth ministry to its fullest. I still enjoy junior high kids who are immature, and just need that attention. Like, I'm the attention. And I still enjoy high schoolers who are too cool to participate, or seniors who have that senioritis, and they're already trying to check out and and trying to challenge them and get them. I will say this: I've learned that I'm feeling more of a passion for our college kids who are, who feel maybe feel displaced, and I really like to figure out a better way to utilize my local kids who are going to college, who are not going off to OC or going off somewhere, but are still here and going to college, and they're scared.
Right.
For what they should do. They don't want to go to adult Bible class, and trying to figure out like a better mentor transition. And so, that's part of something that I've learned.
Well, I mean, kids. I mean, it's one thing to have like a baby as a youth minister, but as your kids start to grow up, it gets harder to balance you know, your responsibilities as a father and as a
Right.
husband, because your wife can't just come along with you to all the events because now you got
That's
a little
right.
one at home, and so it just your ministry begins to morph a little bit.
Yeah, that's been a learning curve for us recently. As Sam's getting
Yeah.
older, he'll be 4 in October. Is that changes what Lauren can do in our youth ministry? Mm-hmm. You know,
It's not better, it's not worse. You just have to learn how
that's
how
just
those things
different.
kind of mesh. Yeah.
It's just different.
I'm really looking forward this fall.
Oh, you just
We
skipped
have.
what you learned, huh? I guess you're not gonna tell us.
I already told you what I learned, man. I learned that sometimes you got to get out of yourself and get out of the way and let God use you. Because
I learned where I got my shoes.
yeah, right.
I
On
got
your feet.
Got them on my feet.
Oh, the old classic New Orleans scam. Give me $20 if I tell you where you got your shoes.
So our listeners, just a little sidebar before we jump into what are you looking forward to? That happened to us, and Josh interceded very quickly and was like, "Don't tell him, just don't agree," because he knew it was like a scam. Like, oh, if I tell you where you got your shoes, you got to give me $1. I'm like, first off, I'm gonna give you nothing. And I know where I got them. I bought them online. And Josh was like, no, you got them on your feet. And I was like, oh, that's true. I guess that's true. But then, like, when we get back, like, I had a TikTok that went over, and it was like somebody taping, and like these people who got, you know, oh, it was a comedian. It was a comedian who got caught on that, and he was like, oh, I ended up giving him like a couple bucks because, you know, oh, he's right. I got him on my feet, and I was like, that's wild. So it was just weird
They love that joke in New Orleans.
It's just weird that my phone listens so well.
Isn't it crazy?
My phone listens better than I do.
And I really thought we were going to like towards the fall because you were looking forward to what's coming up with mentorship. So I thought I was following your lead, but I guess
You
I'm
are
not. I
no,
guess
you
I'm
are
leading here.
definitely you're definitely doing the right thing.
You mentioned your college kids.
Yeah.
You know, Goodwood used to have a huge campus ministry.
Wow.
And you know, they had a big presence on campus at LSU, and they had a big college young professionals class that was really burgeoning and thriving. And you know, some things happen around the city. Churches grow, they shrink, they go through those periods.
Yeah.
And you know, through some really difficult times, you know, our church had kind of contracted considerably. And one of the primary age groups we lost was our young families and our college students. And that's you know, that can suck the life out of a church really, really fast. So one of the things that's been really cool, as some other things have transpired, other churches have moved some of their ministry focuses around. We had an opening in 2019 that came up in the fall, and we were able to get back on campus with an official registered campus group at LSU. And then COVID hit and shut everything down. We had a great fall, and then everything just came to a screeching halt in 2020. But this year, I've had 2 students step up and just say, hey, look, we really want to be a powerful presence on campus. There's some
Right.
things we want to do, but we don't have the tools. I just need the resources to do some things. And we now have about 20 kids as a part of our campus ministry.
Right.
They're meeting together on Wednesday nights. After Sunday evening services, they always have a devotional and a game night. They're getting together 2 to 3 other times during the week just for, you know, activities. They went bowling on Friday night. We got a couple of tailgates set up. They went to Gulf Coast. It wasn't Gulf Coast Getaway. It was the Tide for Christ in Alabama. They had a fall retreat or back to school retreat.
Right.
They've been present on campus for the initial fair that they have, the involvement fair at LSU. And this is all being like student led. I'm giving them the resources. I'm giving them everything that they need. But it's led by so many of our students, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what they're able to do in that group. Because just in the span of 4 weeks, it went from 4 kids to 20. And it
Wow.
all went from the 4 of them saying, hey, I got friends that are looking for somewhere they can go that's not full of drinking and partying. They want to go have fun with people that they know they can trust. They're going to have a good time, but they're not going to get in trouble with. And not all of them are Christians, but they're just looking for a good place and good people to get involved with.
Right.
And my favorite part about it is, I mean, we had the stuff all set up, but these are our young people coming and saying, we want to do something. We've got an opportunity in front of us, and we can't let it go. And then I had a couple of deacons come in and say, hey, man, I'll lead a Devo. I'll make sure that somebody's got everything they need. I'm going to step in over here. They can use my house. I'll be there on Wednesday. And it's been really cool. Just sometimes we need a little shot in the arm of excitement that says, okay, people are listening. People are ready to go to work. There's other people.
Well, it's like we preach this and you think about it all the time. Like, man, we need to get like young people involved. We need to get young people involved in like corporate worship, but also just in church functionality and things like that, and stepping up and doing stuff. And I think the problem is, I think sometimes we take young people and we say, okay, I need you to fit into this mold.
Yeah, right.
Right? Like, I need you to fit into this mold. I need you to do this. And I think instead we need to listen to ourselves. You know, Jerry Myers, an elder, a shepherd, retired now, shepherd at Central, used to say, Aaron, man, sometimes programs need to die off. Sometimes ministries need to die off so that new ones can be born, you know? And I was thinking about that, and I was like, man, those are really wise words, because in reality, like, sometimes like these ministries need to die off so that like when we get a young person who's active and wants to be involved and wants to lead and wants to do this ministry, we don't have to cram them into this mold of, here, be this deacon of this, you know? No,
yeah, right.
Like, let's let them like be who they want to be in ministry, and reach out and fill that role, and build the mold off of that. And that's a new ministry. That's that new person being born into that. Like, we don't have to, like, we should let the cycle go. Let the cycle go through. And you're going to have people who want to fit that old mold, and that's great. You know, hey, I want to be, you know, do that. But also, like, so we have to have that mentality. We need to remind ourselves that, like, and so, like, how do you inspire people to step up and want to lead and be in those positions, or start those new ministries and do that and run with that? And I think that's where we need to be, that extra air to pump those flames and really allow those fires to burn for God. There is to pump people up in those areas. And I also feel like that's where a lot of my generation has kind of fallen through and failed. That we've gotten to the habit of saying, well, this church doesn't offer this, so I'm going to quit and I'm going to go somewhere else. Where really God might be saying, hey, this church doesn't offer this, or they don't have anybody to lead this ministry. I'm glad I brought you to this church to lead this ministry, because you obviously have a passion for it. You know, instead of being catered to, you know, work for the kingdom. The kingdom isn't there to work for you. You're there to be a part of the kingdom and to work for the kingdom of God. I'm getting really preachy, but I am. But I just feel like that's how, like, that's our mindset needs to be shifted. It's not about being served. It's about, how can I serve? And, oh, I'm upset that this congregation, this church doesn't do this. Well, maybe God called you there to kind of lead and to do that and to step up and do that, because we need people who are passionate about said ministry, you know, and it doesn't have to be like, you know, there's some ministries that, like, we only say are good or effective because, you know, 1 million people turned out for them. You know, now there's some ministries that mean the world, but only 4 or 5 people really, you know, manage or do them. You know, I always think of, like, I always thought about, like, there was like 4 old ladies at Central, and they would always provide a meal for people who were having funerals at the church. And I from experience, I know that those families, that meal meant the world to them.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of stuff. That's not a ministry that took like a whole bunch of people. It's not a ministry that had a big spotlight on it. It wasn't a ministry, you know, but it was these older ladies who are widows who knew what a kind of meal like that would kind of do. And I was like, man, that's a powerful ministry right there. But somebody had to be like, hey, I'll coordinate. I'll work with the preacher, with the minister, whoever's doing the funeral, so that we get that information and that we do that. So anyway, I don't know.
You need people who will step in and just take charge.
Yeah, that's right.
Like that's been the best part of this avenue is someone stepped in and said, "Hey, I know that you've done some things here in the past. Is that framework still set up?
Right.
And can I go and do this?
Yeah.
Not
Isn't that fantastic?
And I mean, this is a 21-year-old kid, and it would have been really easy for him to say, "Hey, I think we need to have Bible studies on campus. So can you start a Bible study so I can bring my friends?"
Right.
But that's not what he said.
Right.
He said, "We need to have a Bible study on campus. I want to do a Bible study. What resources can I use to bring my friends to a Bible study that I want to do? Like,
right.
Shoot, whatever you need is yours.
That's right.
Anything I have is yours. So you just tell me what you need, and I'll get it for you."
That's so awesome, and I think that's why I've been so excited about these Wednesday nights. I've been offering and I've been working with these teenagers when they need me to work with them. Like I had a couple young boys who were like, "Hey, can we just come and be in the youth room that Wednesday, like 4 or 5 hours early?" And I was like, "Sure, man. I'm working in my office. I can just move over to the hub and hang out with y'all until Bible class." And I was sitting there and they were doing their devos, and I went, "Hey, can I give you guys some pointers?" And they were like, "Yeah, please." And I told one of them, I said, "You're trying to be too much like him, and your brain does not work the way that his does." I said, "So this is what you need to do." Because he was struggling. He was struggling because he was trying to write down word for word what he was going to say. And I said, you're not that kind of speaker. I said, "You're a wanderer." I said, "So man, you need to put in your flags, put in your key thoughts, word for word, and you need to wander to those points. But you need to know where you're going. It's okay to wander, but you can't get lost. You got to know where you're going. You got to head to your points." And so I worked with him, and he did that, and he was like, "That was so much easier." And I was like, "What?" I said, "You're welcome." I said, "I have been doing this for a while."
When you be yourself, it's amazing how much easier it is.
That's right. And they nailed it. Like they were the kickoff Devo, and it went
awesome.
really good. And so I've just been excited. And then this last week, our format is like I've been getting up there, and I'll kick it off. I'll do a welcome. I'll do a short little devotional. Literally, I'm just reading one verse, saying some thoughts about it, and kicking us off. Then a couple of other teens are leading some songs, and then whatever teen is going to give the devotional will get up and give their devotional, and then we'll clap for them, and then I'll get up and I'll close us off. And that's how our Wednesday night's been going. But it's just been really powerful. It's been really good.
That's so cool.
And it's all like every week somebody else comes up and they're like, "Hey, so when can I do one?" And I'm like, "October this." And they're like, "All right, thanks." I'm like, "All right, thanks." Like it's been just like, okay. Like I really have like this real cool series that I want to start doing on Wednesday nights, but there is no way in this entire world that you could get me to stop this train. You know what I mean?
That's right. It's one of those watershed moments where you realize, okay. And it may have been sparked by something someone did at a youth rally somewhere else.
Yeah.
But those are those threads that you've kind of laid in their hearts and in their minds.
Yeah.
That just someone finally like sets fire to, and it's like, okay, and the killing's already there, the preparation is already there, the support is already there.
Well, what was cool is these boys felt comfortable because they did it at church camp with a smaller group. Mm-hmm. And I said, "Man, just say that to our own youth group." And they're like, "Oh yeah, bet, we're in." So they felt comfortable to do it there, so they did it here, which then made the next couple people be like, "Hey, I did one at church camp. I could do it here too." I'm like, "Sweet, bet, do it." And so they've just been doing it, and they've been really good, solid, mostly good like devotionals. Like they have some really solid, real points from their perspective. Like, man, it was good.
That's good.
It was good.
Well, before we run out of time, I guess we probably talk about the season of Behind the Beards that's coming up. Huh?
Behind the Beards, season 4, making a little bit of a shift. Not like a crazy shift. Not like weird. Not that you won't get the reveal, about your ministers and preachers and stuff like that. Like that's our core, and we still want to stay there. But yeah, making maybe a little bit of kind of a shift in our content.
Yeah, and I don't know about kind of, where you'll take us, but I've really been struggling lately with, and we talked about this some yesterday, I think it was, but I expect to get bad info, bad intel,
Right.
bad theology. I expect to be accused of being a bigot and a misogynist and
Right.
from the world.
Yeah.
What has struck me over the last 6 months to a year is how many of those messages are coming from at least church affiliated groups,
Right.
former ministers. We talked about deconstruction some last season, but deconstructing Christians, some of people that I've loved and respected and followed now are standing on the other side of the aisle with the world at their back going, you've missed the boat. You don't know what it means to love God.
Right.
And so that assault is now coming from people that I thought were friendly. I thought we were together. I thought we were in this walk the same way. So,
Right.
I want to take some time over this next season and maybe beyond of just saying, how do we deal with that? How do we process that? And how do we have that conversation? Like it's one thing to have conversation with somebody from a worldly perspective that disagrees with me.
Right.
It's something totally different to have someone who is theologically educated, calling out names and stuff. So how do we have that conversation? It's especially hurtful.
Right.
It strikes in a different way.
It does.
So how do we process that? How do we move forward? And how do we have constructive? I don't even want to say how do we have constructive conversations, but how do I shore up my own faith? And how do I know, what's true and what's right and what's sound?
How do I stand firm?
So that I can be confident moving forward. So that's what God wants from us is a confidence in Him and His word. So it's kind of the direction I think I want to see us move towards.
Yeah.
Over the next few months.
Yeah, we might have a little bit more video clips and other things like that. Have some more guests on and to kind of help navigate through some of these conversations, and how do we navigate through them, and how do we protect ourselves? How do we stand firm? How do we, we did a Bible class the other day on the full armor of God, and it's one of those things that you talk about that all the time. You talk about that all the time in children's ministry. And as we were reading that, Josh and I are big fans of the Naked Bible podcast. We're big fans of that. And Paul talks about right before, let's see, where's that at? That's in Ephesians, right? Or no, it's not in Ephesians.
Galatians.
Yeah, Galatians.
This is
no, Ephesians chapter 6.
Finally
be strong. Right. Yeah, finally be strong in the Lord and His mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so that you may take a stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. And I was thinking about that. And I was like, whoa. Like Paul is talking about like something super crazy here. Something that like I never really because I always got into like the armor of God, the breastplate of righteousness and the sword of truth, and all that kind of stuff, the armor pieces, because I dressed up as the Roman soldier, or whatever when I was a kid, and I reread that with my high schoolers, and I was like, whoa, what is Paul saying here? What is this fight against?
Yeah.
Paul's not talking about this fight is against flesh and blood. It's this spiritual struggle, and it's not just Satan. Like Paul lists off a whole bunch of things that we are fighting against, spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms.
Yeah, the rulers, the authorities, the powers of the dark world against the spiritual forces of evil.
That's an army. That's an army of evil that is up against us. And whenever we get traction, they are trying to take that traction away from us. And so, like, talking about that kind of stuff, like, how do we stand firm? How do we go forward? How do we stay strong in our faith, but stay true to who Jesus truly is and truly was? Because Jesus turned some tables, but he forgave and he loved a lot more than he turned tables.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But he also never changed. He never compromised who he was, even though he loved, and stuff like that. And so, like, how do we really do that? So I want to take a focus and kind of look at that kind of stuff. So,
yeah, I love football. I know.
I'm just kidding. I love football. I love watching football with other people. I just don't expect me to know anything about anybody.
Well, we have football especially, but athletics in general, but especially in football, we have this battlefield language that we use. Mm. We're comrades. We're going to war together. We're going to battle in the trenches, and, yeah, I get it. It's tough. It's physical. It's a teamwork. But we see that as fans, and we kind of embrace that. But when people start talking about the Christian walk as warfare, when they talk about it as a battle, when they talk about it in those kind of words, sometimes they kind of look at them a little crossways and go, "That's a little dramatic, don't you think?"
Right.
And I think we've fallen into that too easily. And maybe it's time that we really lean into and embrace that warfare language and realize, no, man, we're at war.
Yeah.
And I think we're at war, and a lot of times we're fighting the wrong enemy.
Yeah.
Our enemy has us focus on one another as opposed to focus on him. So hopefully we can maybe redirect our.
I also think we just forget we're in war.
Yeah, for sure.
And we get lazy. We get lazy, and yeah, I mean, we can just go into it now, but we won't. Yeah. But
next week,
guys, I am excited to be back. I hope you're excited to dive into season 4 with us here at Behind the Beards. But we always want to remind you of something that is close to our hearts, right? We want to remind you of Galatians chapter 6, verse 9. Do not grow weary in doing good. This world is messy. This life is messy. So allow Christ to use you to do something different, something good in his name. I'm Aaron, and this is Josh, and we will see you next week on Behind the Beards.
Behind the Beards.
Till we're all growing a beard. A man's face should never be bare. We just want some facial hair. We're anticipating, yeah, everyone's waiting for a beard.
Man, that song is such a rocking song. So, I never, noticed that, in Ephesians chapter 6, all the things that Paul lists off there. And after reading, those books and things like that, I'm like, how can you read through that and not be like, hello, there are more than
it's crazy.
Just what we talked about. I also